All right, let's go to Holly in Kansas City, Missouri. What's up, Holly?
Hi, Dr. John.
How we doing?
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to talk to you. And Patrick Mahomes, way to go. All right, so what's up?
Okay, so my question for you is, where do you draw the line between your responsibility to your spouse and your responsibility to your kids? And I can give you some context around that if you want.
Give me some context.
Okay, so I've been married for 16 years and I've got 2 boys. And my husband, he's a good husband.
How old are they?
But he's not a great dad. 14 and 12.
14 and 12. And hey, I was talking over the top of you and I apologize. You said something profound. Say it again.
I said he's a good husband, but he's not a great dad.
Unpack that for me.
So he's, I feel very obligated to say at the outset, like no abuse or anything like that. He's just very emotionally unavailable.
Okay.
Maybe emotionally immature even. And I feel like I have a responsibility to him to help him grow into the best person that he can be. And I love him dearly. But I feel like I also have a responsibility to raise boys who will be good dads. Mm-hmm. And if they model off of him, I don't think that will be successful.
So you can't help him be better. He has to choose to be better. You can assist him. You can walk alongside him. You can help meet his needs if he is of the emotional maturity to speak them out loud. And he has a vested interest in also meeting your needs. You can do that. You can't help him be the best dad he can be. He has to choose that he wants to be a better dad. When you've brought this up to him in the past, how has he responded?
I mean, he thinks he's a fine dad, but like I see the way other families are and I get jealous of.
Ooh, that's dangerous ground, Holly. That's super dangerous ground. Because in reverse, him saying, man, I see how other wives take care of themselves. I just am jealous. Like you're right. You see how that can get real sideways real fast. So give me some examples. Let's take other people's lives off the table because no matter what you think, you're just getting a curated version of that world. What are some things that you see in your life that you think make him not a good dad?
He doesn't play with our kids. He has never really played with our kids. He really kind of only interacts with them to like give them chores or something like that. It's not a, like, it's almost a speak when spoken to, not really trying to make them into the adults he wants them to be. More of enforce the children he wants to have.
Okay, so he's more concerned with don't bother me, stay out of my way. I give you your life and I give you food and a bed. Get away.
Do what you're told. Don't ask questions. If I say no, I say no. That sort of stuff.
Okay, and he doesn't take them. Those kind of speak when spoken to. You do what I say. That type of parenting only works in a relationship, right? When there's a context there. Do they miss their dad? Do they even try to interact with him or have they just moved on?
They just moved on. They come to me for things or like they'll ask me to ask him questions, but I don't think he knows that they do that.
So hard question for you. Where was this conversation 12 years ago?
It wasn't as bad then.
Okay.
It just seems like it's gotten worse and worse as time goes on.
Does he not like them? Do they freak him out? Do they scare him? What's he trying to protect himself from?
I think he doesn't. I think that's more of an inward thing than an outward thing.
What does that mean?
Like, I think he doesn't like himself.
Okay.
And so because of that, he just retreats further and further into himself.
How's your marriage?
We're working on some stuff like I think most people are.
That was not even a good evasive answer. How's your marriage?
You
said he's a great husband. I'm calling BS.
No, he really is. He would move the ends of the earth for me.
So he'll change your tire. He'll change your tire. That's cool. And he makes sure the oil's changed, which is awesome. And he does pay bills. Cool. Um, is that the standard by which we were saying he's a great husband now?
Well, he's really starting to put in some effort to become not just the husband he wants to be, but the husband I need. And I respect that and am giving him time to, rise to the occasion.
Okay. You have bifurcated a man into two different roles. He's a husband over here and he's a dad over here. I would say those are relationships that emanate from the same person. And in many ways, those can be different skill sets and different tools that I've got to pick up along the way and learn, right? I've never parented a 12-year-old before in my house. And so I'm having to learn in real time what that's like. But it's worth the effort, right? I've never parented a 6-year-old girl, and good God Almighty, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm giving it my best shot from reading and learning and talking to wise people and saying I'm sorry and asking for advice and wisdom, right? And most above all else, I'm leaning into that relationship, as weird and awkward as both of them can be. Your husband isn't a great dad and a bad husband, or a bad husband and a great dad. He's a man who's really struggling, and he might perform better on one task and he's not performing well on the other, but he may be trying to get better in one relationship, but abandoning other relationships. It comes from the same guy. And I say that because if he got the husbanding thing down great, and he completely neglects his kids, he's never going to be there, right? You're never going to fully lean into that. You shouldn't, right? So, man, this is hard because I know I can almost guarantee you he would have an other side to the story.
Well, that's why I guess my question is, I don't really know how do you choose, or when do you face a line where you have to choose? Because I've heard callers call into your show before and say things like, I wish I would have done something differently. And I just don't want to be in a position that I wish I would have done something sooner or later to have,
so
raise better humans.
That's a great question. And I'm trying to be sensitive to my own home and keep some space between intensely private things in my house and also be open. I can tell you over the last 12 years with both of my kids, there's been seasons when my wife will say to me, or I will say to her, I would like to see this different with our kid. And both of us have enough trust with one another that we can at least have, I trust that you're right, or I trust at least it's worth another conversation. Or I can say things like, I don't like the state of y'all's relationship. I'm going to lean in for a while, and I'm going to take this for a season because there just needs to be some space here, and vice versa, right? And so that's as much as I want to get into it without going into too many details. And none of it's bad or salacious. It's just us leaning on each other and being willing to speak truth to each other. And so if I'm you, I would take the same advice I give everybody. I would take him out and say, listen, you're losing your sons. And there's few things in the world more important than a son's relationship to his dad. Your sons will chase his blessing for their entire life, even if they hate him. They are desperate for him to hug them. They are desperate for him to put his hands on the back of their neck or hold their face and look them in the eye and say, I love you. I'm glad you're my son. They are desperate for that. So desperate that they will seek that in a million different places. And they will chase and chase and chase and chase until their world is ash. And I would speak that directly to him. And what it looks like is something as simple as my son Hank and I go to breakfast at Waffle House once a week. I do bedtimes with both my kids every night. I treat their mother really well. I take my son with me places. I try. My daughter doesn't like to always leave the house, but I take them everywhere. I took my daughter to the store with me the other day. I take my son with me places. I intentionally build in some time because when you take your kid to the store, it takes another 45 minutes. And when I take my son fishing, we're going to catch less fish, right? Because I'm going to be untangling things and whatever. And so I'm just building that into my life because I love my kids. And like you mentioned, you said it perfectly. I'm raising young adults, right? I've got a finite amount of time and influence. And, but it's not even about that. It's about I love them and I like spending time with them. I would have that conversation with your husband in a very direct way. This needs to change. And what you have to be prepared for is him to say, no, it's not going to. I don't like them. They annoy me. I don't want them around me. I don't know what I'm doing. And he has a right to opt out. That becomes a pretty tough character issue, but you're gonna have to. Here's what I'm saying: you can't be a peacemaker anymore. You've got to put it on the line and say something. And to answer your original question, you always, always, always protect the kids. Always. That's one of my core value rules when it comes to working in these kind of situations. Kids come first.
Thank you.
You got real quiet on me.
That was just a lot to take in. I think.
Take me to that conversation. You're scared of that conversation. Why?
Yeah. I don't think it'll go over well. Because I know that he doesn't see a problem. Like whenever I've told him before, hey, one kid has come to me and asked me to talk to you about this one thing for them because they're scared to, or, they weren't comfortable with it. Like he kind of brushes that off as that's silly. There's no reason they should feel uncomfortable.
And that's where you stop and say, but they do. And they do because you don't ever talk to them. You never take them places. You have no input in their life other than to make sure they're doing the things that you said. The last time you hugged them and said, I love you, and I'm so grateful that out of all the people in the world, I got picked to be your dad. You've said that 0 times. That's why. And I'm just telling you right now, here's my promise to you, Holly. My promise is this. Avoiding this conversation is choosing to pick the illusion of stability over the heartfelt reality that you fought for your sons when nobody else would. And I also am not naive. I know that some of these conversations end very badly. But what I would tell you is that ending will come sooner or later, whether you have this conversation or not. So you might as well have it. You'll want to be able to look at your sons at some point if their dad abandons them and say, I went down swinging for you guys because y'all deserve to have a dad. And he was struggling. It wasn't y'all's fault. I recommend doing this. Write down what you want to say and be very specific. Don't say things like, I feel like that. Feelings are great and they're important, but they're easily dismissed in these kind of conversations. Be very specific. I haven't seen, the boys are desperate for, they're avoiding you, they are scared of you. Here's the context we've built. And here's a couple of things I'm asking you to start doing. Tell our boys you love them every freaking day. Stop what you're doing, close your computer, put your phone down, and hug our sons every day. Every day, ask them, what was the best part of your day? Once a week, take each one of them out to breakfast. You can do that. Once a week, take each one of them on a walk. You can do that. And my hope is maybe he just doesn't know. Maybe he thinks they don't like him. Maybe he's never seen this happen and this is all weird and new because his dad didn't talk to him. Fine. He's got to make a change or he's about to lose his 2 boys. 12 and a 14-year-old, they're about to head off into the woods without him, if they haven't already. Thank you for loving them. This is where that love gets real hard. But they're lucky to have you as their mom, Holly.